In this video, I'm going to show you 10 different woodworking projects. Let's get started.
Now we can gather all of the nails we collected. And alright, we got our 3 boards right here. And we also got our nails. And we're going to use these nails to construct our project. First, let's trim off the end. We're going to cut 2 pieces at 7 inches. We'll stack it on top to get consistent cuts. Now we'll cut past the nail marks. And cut 2 more pieces at 9.5 inches. Over at the pallet, we got 2 pieces at 6 inches wide, and we also have a piece at like 5 inches wide. And we're going to use this to cut 2 pieces at 8.25 inches. And there we go, we got all the pieces cut with the miter saw, but we're gonna need the bandsaw to modify some of these pieces. All right, on one of these pieces we just ripped from that 5-inch piece, we're gonna need to measure over 2 1/8 of an inch with a square, and we're gonna scribe a line all the way down that board. And before we cut that out, we're gonna need to tray something else onto another board. Grab a paint can like this, and then grab your 7-inch piece right here, and we're gonna lap our paint can over the board about halfway. Then we're going to take our marker and make a line all the way around it. We're going to cut out that piece. Now we can cut these 2 pieces out with a bandsaw or jigsaw. Unfortunately, I forgot to press the record button on my GoPro when cutting them out on the bandsaw, but I'm going to go ahead and skip to the sanding. Then we'll give all the pieces a little massage on the belt sander. We are going to be using these nails, and I don't think I've used nails on this channel before, but yeah, we're going to use those nails to tack it together. All right, you're going to grab your 9.5 inch piece right here, and then your 7-inch piece without that curve in it, and we're going to tack these 2 pieces together first. First nail is always the hardest, but we got it in. And I'm only using the nails that are pretty straight. And then we'll put on this other piece. And then we'll take our arched piece that we got cut out and put it in the front. Now we'll flip it over where this arch is facing down. And we're gonna need to put in our bottom. The goal right here is just to make everything flush and it's not gonna wobble. Then our last piece should fit like a glove. Perfect. That was like, couldn't be any better.
Bruh.
All right, now we can give it one more whirl on the belt sander, and then we can stain it and it'll be complete. All right, well, you can't stop here, but just to go one step further, we're gonna slap some stain on this thing. fold the end in, and then there we go. It all starts with this board. It's an old piece of black walnut. I would be using my other saw, but it's just a little bit too wimpy. We're gonna start by cutting 12-inch sections. Then using the table saw, we'll rip all of them down to 2 3/4. All right, now we got 28 pieces of black walnut, but most of them aren't the right thickness, so we're gonna have to sort some of them out. But now we're left with 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19
pieces of wood that we can make spatulas out of. Well, there we go. We got all 19 marked out. And if you don't want to trace every single one out, I'll put a link in the description to a template. But now we gotta go cut all of these out on a bandsaw. But before we cut it out, we gotta fix something. Now we're gonna take every one of these spatulas and we're gonna make each of the ends curve up. Now we're gonna cut that out. There we go. Now we just gotta do that 18 more times. For the sake of this video, I only finished up sanding 10 of these spatulas. But now we're gonna give them all a massage with 220 grit. And then we'll give them a massage with 600 grit. reason why I don't use templates is because I want every single one to be different and have its own unique design. But I'll make sure to leave one in the description below. Now we can bring this over to the bandsaw and cut it out. Now we'll give it a little character with the belt sander, and we'll put a bevel on the tip of it. But now we'll give it a massage by hand with some 220. Then you can finish it with your favorite wood finish. And there you have it, black walnut spreader. For this next project, we're going to trace out a spoon. Except it's not going to be a spoon. And now we got to cut a mouth. So we're going to come up from the bottom and pull back down. That is what it should look like, and I usually do not get that on first try. Now we're going to strap it to our workstation and sand that notch we just made. Then we'll give it a massage with the belt sander. Then sand it by hand with 220. And then 600. For this project, I got about a 10-inch piece of 2x4, but you only really need about 5 inches. All right, you're gonna grab your square, which ain't really a square, and a pen, and we're gonna make some marks on this 2x4. We're gonna pull over 1.5 inches. We'll pull up another 1/2 inch, and then skip all the way up to the 4-inch mark. Then we're gonna flip our square and make all those lines straight. So now your 2x4 should look something like this. All right, in between these two marks, we're gonna make a 1/2 inch dado that goes 3/4 inch down into the 2x4. Or you can use a miter saw to cut into those lines 3/4 inch deep. But if you don't have a chop saw or table saw, you can use a band saw and cut into those lines and then chisel that thing out. And that's how I'm gonna do it. And you're gonna wanna make sure you slap on your PPE, AKA your protection equipment. All right, now we're gonna clamp this to our workbench and we're gonna chisel out that middle section. And of course, we're gonna use a 1/2 inch chisel because it's 1/2 inches wide. I need the hammer because I can't find a hammer. Oh, there's a hammer. We got a hammer and we're gonna pound that out. And while still in clamp, I'd like to get a piece of sandpaper and clean out that groove and make it smooth. That rhymed. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. We'll wrap the sandpaper around our pen, same thing. Now we can sand the groove. And now we can use a miter saw and cut all the way through on the 4-inch line. And you want to make the groove first because it's much easier that way and it's a lot safer. Don't know why I was at 15 degrees. Perfect, there we go. All right, next step is to drill a 3/4 inch hole all the way through till it meets that groove we just made. You can either use a paddle bit or a Forstner bit. I'm using a paddle bit. And when you put it in your vise, you're gonna make sure the long side is facing up. Now you can get an old piece of wood and you're gonna put it on corner to corner and then just draw a line kind of in the middle. Do it on the other side and do that again. And now you know where to drill your hole. Yeah, my dentist told me I needed a root canal. So I said, hold on, let me get my drill. He didn't laugh. You can see that hole met that groove perfectly. All right, now it's time to do everybody's favorite part, sanding. All right, stop the booing. Let's just get started sanding. We'll make sure to get those corners a nice round over. Well, there we go. We made a nice little phone holder. But it's not just a phone holder, it's a phone holder with an audio amplifier. And you may be asking yourself, hey, does it actually amplify? Well, I'm gonna let you hear it for yourself. All right, here's the music without the amplifier. And now here's with it. I did not turn up the volume at all. That is for real. For this project, I'm gonna be using a 5 1/4 inch piece of poplar. And this project doesn't have to be done with this wood. It just needs to be over 5 inches wide. You'll see the reason for that later in the video. And for this first cut, we're gonna cut it down to 7 inches. Now you're gonna wanna take your miter saw and adjust it 45 degrees vertically. And now you can't comment that I don't have any PPE on. Go comment down below if you like the smell of poplar just as much as I do. And now we got this cut down 7 inches and one of our sides is 45 degrees. Now we'll take our square that ain't no square and a marker. And what we're gonna do is measure to the center and then make a line all the way down. Now it would be easier to set your fence on your table saw, but I'm just not really a fan of using table saws. So we're just gonna be using a bandsaw. But we're not quite done with the bandsaw yet. We gotta go make a couple more marks. All right, now we'll measure down from the long point of the 45 down to 3.5 inches. All right, now from each side of the board, we're gonna measure in 3/4 of an inch. Now we'll put our square on the top and then we'll scribe a line all the way down till it meets that mark. And then connect those 2 lines at the bottom. And then we'll trace it onto our other board. Now we're gonna cut out both these pieces. I just looked down on my hand, I was like, oh, am I bleeding? No, it's just a red marker. Before we staple it together, let's go over here to the belt sander and give them both a massage. And don't worry about sanding down the edges yet, because we're gonna do that once it's assembled. All right, we're gonna line up our angles right here, put them on the table, make sure they're all flat. We're gonna get our nail gun with some 1-inch nails in there. Now for the top. Now I'm gonna just take a little chisel and flatten out these corners so the napkin will sit flush in there. All right, now we can sand everything together. And now we can also put a bevel on everything. We got some 220 grip. Now we can sand everything by hand and make sure to get in those grooves. Then we can add some protection and make the grain pop with some polyurethane. What you do is you take your napkins, slide them in where a corner is facing down. There we go. just like that. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick little video. This project will sell all year round, and you can also make these out of pine 1x4. For this project, I found this old piece of pallet wood. This board is really weathered, which makes it look really rustic. And the project we're gonna be making is this rustic candle holder. So for this project, I'm gonna be cutting 2 of these pieces at 12 inches. And then we'll stack it to make a consistent cut. All right, if you look in the picture right here, you can see that the ends of the boards are just plain and flat and burned on the ends. But I want to do something a little bit different. I'm gonna make it look like a broken board. You'll see in a second. So what I'm gonna do is just make weird jagged edges. Now we can cut these out of a bandsaw or a jigsaw, but this step is optional. I just thought it would look cool to have like a broken board. I actually really like the way they turned out. But we're gonna hand sand in between those grooves to make everything kind of look, I don't know, natural, I guess. And I got some 120 grit. I really like the way they turned out. I'm definitely gonna be using this technique again. All right, take one of your 2 boards. I'm gonna use this one because it looks the best, and we're gonna drill 3 1-inch holes in them. We're gonna put one mark at 3 inches, another mark at 6 inches, and another mark at 9 inches. Then we can center those marks. My board is 3.5 inches wide, so I'm gonna mark it at 1 3/4. We got a 1-inch forstner bit. All right, now we can drill through all the way on these dots. Wrong button. Once you can see the guide bit hole, just mute it back up with the guide bit, and then you can finish drilling that hole with no bust out. And then we can sand it again to make it look a little distressed. Line them up as best as you can, and now you can use some nails and tack these 2 ends together. And we're gonna put 2 nails on each side. Well, there we go. It looks really good just as is, but I'm gonna take it one step further and put rope on each end. But I don't have any thick ropes, so I guess I can't do that. Oh, broken lasso. That's what I'll use. As you can see, this thing is really broken and it's just hanging on by a thread, so I'm gonna use this as thick rope. But you can buy thick rope from a hardware store. It's not that expensive. We'll make sure to get the dullest razor blade to cut the end off with. Well, that didn't work. It just got a little frayed at the end, so I'm gonna use some tape to hold it down and then cut it. Then we'll try to tie the end together with ladder. All right, I want 2 laps around this piece, and it takes that much rope, so right there. All right, now we're gonna make another piece the same length. And you can see how much that tape helps. I didn't put any tape on this side, and it just like tore to pieces. We'll take the end of the rope and put it about in the middle, and we'll drive a nail through the rope and into the wood. Then we can wrap it around. We'll take the end of the rope and nail that down too. All right, there we go, one side done. project, I'm gonna be using a 4.5-inch wide piece of pallet wood. First, we'll cut off the nail marks on the end, and then we'll cut 2 pieces at 8.5 inches. Then we'll cut past the nail marks again, and then cut that second piece. Now we'll use the piece that we just cut off, and we'll cut 2 more pieces at 4 inches. All right, now I have this piece of pine. It measures in at 3/4 of an inch thick by 1.5 inches wide. I think this was cut off a pine 1x6, but I'm not totally sure. But we're gonna use this to make a 24-inch cut. All right, now we've cut out all the pieces, but now we're gonna grab one of the 8.5-inch pieces and we're gonna drill 2 holes in it. And for the holes, we're gonna be using a 2 3/4-inch hole saw bit. But now we gotta figure out where to drill those holes. We're gonna pull in 2.5 inches on each side, and then we'll center those 2 marks. So now we're gonna drill those 2 holes on those marks. An easy way to put your drill bit into your chuck is just set it next to it, snap, and then it'll go in. Nice. You can flip it over and then meet that guide bit where it was, and you can finish drilling that hole with no bust out. All right, now we can start assembling it. Now the first thing we're gonna do is mount our other 8.5-inch piece to our other 24-inch piece. Now we're gonna use 2 2.5-inch screws to screw it to this piece. So we're gonna pre-drill 2 holes. Now we're actually gonna screw a pilot hole in here too. And because I don't have a sink bit on hand, I'm gonna have to use a bigger drill bit and just drill into those holes just a little bit so the head of the screws are flush. All right, I have some 1-inch nails in here, and we'll take our 2 3.5-inch pieces and nail it to the sides. Then we'll take our piece that we nailed the stake to, and we'll put that on top. Now we actually gotta bring this over to the bandsaw and make a cut. Now you can use your bandsaw and cut a sharp angle out of it to make a stake, and you can stick it into the ground. Don't worry about making that cut nice because it's gonna be in the ground. It just needs to be sharp enough to be stuck in the ground. Then finally, we can give it a massage. But for this project, we're gonna use about maybe 6 inches of it. And we'll slap on our protection equipment. And now you're gonna find a hatchet and then you're gonna chop it straight down the middle. Either get a planer or a belt sander and we're gonna flatten this side. All right, well I got it as flat as I want it. It doesn't really have to be perfect. It's still gonna make it look rustic. All right, now you're gonna get your pencil and you're gonna trace out a Christmas tree. And it doesn't have to be perfect by all means. All right, well I got it traced out. You can't really see it, but it's there. And if you don't want to trace it out, I got a template in the link description below. Now you can cut this out, and for that you can use a bandsaw or a jigsaw. But that's why I flattened out the sides so you can slide it easily. And now we'll give her a massage. And then we'll spray on some polyurethane. And there we go, we just made a nice little tree. All right, for this next project, I'm gonna be using this 2-inch diameter piece of wood. I think this is elm, but it doesn't have to be this kind of wood. Cedar would be a very good choice. All right, this piece is kind of scrubby, so I'm gonna cut right there and right there. That's about maybe 4 inches. So we're going to mark that. Now we can go cut this out in the bandsaw. All right, now we gotta find the center. And we use a square and a pencil. All right, this piece is 2.5 inches wide, so we'll mark it at 1.25. Now we know where to drill a hole. All right, now we'll get a 1-inch portion of bit, and we'll drill down in that piece of wood about 3 inches or so. Might have been very useful to have a shop background because that kind of made a mess. But now we'll just give it a massage and clean up all the edges. And just like our last project, we're gonna spray it with some polyurethane. Well, there you go. You just made a nice little utensil holder, and you can use it to store anything. Well, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to check out my woodworking playlist, I'll put that right here on the screen. If you'd like to subscribe, I'll put that right here. Thanks for watching. I will see y'all next time.